Hello everyone, good evening and welcome to our redox talk for this week. My name is Liz Chin-Seet and I'm very happy to share a breakthrough that can change your life. Just over about 3.5 years ago, I was concerned about the telltale signs of aging, and a friend of mine who was a medical scientist introduced me to these amazing products. So I came to redox molecules purely out of vanity. So at that time, this is about a year after I started using the molecules, because I didn't take decent photos of myself before as I was advised. But at the time, I was looking at ways to help combat the signs of aging, and I was looking at things like dragon's blood serums and all the different products around that you can get from a major department store. All sorts of lotions and potions. I was even seriously looking at derma rolling, which is needling, to change my skin, strip away the old and start the new. And within a few weeks of using the redox molecules on my face, neck and décolletage, I noticed that lumps that I'd had in my ears from infected pieced ears from the age of 10 were starting to soften. And I had never been able to wear pierced ears since the age of 10 because of the lumpy scar tissue that I had. And I wasn't sure if I was imagining it because I was only using the gel on my face, neck and décolletage and not touching my ears, but somehow the lumps in my ears were softening. A few months later, I gave a tube to my sister for Christmas, and this is her in December 2014. And when I checked with her 3 days later, she had said that this particular scar she had here for over 26 years had also appeared to soften as well. Sorry. Margot, you might just need to mute yourself a little bit. And so when she said that her scar tissue was softening, I thought that maybe then I wasn't imagining the softening in my earlobes. And sure enough, 2.5 years later, at the age of, about 40 odd years later, I've been able to wear earrings again now because those scar tissues have absolutely softened and gone away completely. When my sister, after the initial 3 days, the reaction, when I checked again with her in March, and she said that she didn't feel as though there was any more improvement. But I took a photo, and here I've put them side by side, and you can see the marked improvement in her skin. This has actually softened even more and shrunk even more. This particular lump under the chin here has actually gone away, and you can see overall improvement in a matter of just 3 months. So then I started to use it on other issues as became more known in Australia, the different things it was doing. So I was able to then use it on my lower back pain, which I'd had for over 20 years from my first pregnancy. And it saved me a lot of money from going to all the different therapists. I was able to use it on shoulder pain, which meant I could avoid having injections. I was really scared of having injections in my shoulder, and within several months I was able to move my shoulder again freely and not even have to consider any other form of therapy. Then I started using it for first aid. So I cut my finger in the kitchen, and usually with this sort of cut, you either have to go and get stitches or you have to really tightly bind it and wait for the bleeding to stop. In this case, I put my finger in a cup of the redox liquid, and you can see how the blood has congealed at the bottom here rather than being dispersed as it would be with any other sort of liquid. And that all I needed then was a Band-Aid. And then my daughter was involved in a car accident where the car was written off. And when I got to her at the scene, she was in such shock she didn't even know if she'd been injured. The airbag hadn't, she was hit from the side, so there was no airbag deployed from the front, so she didn't even know whether she'd hit her head or anything. She was just numbed and in shock. So while we're at the scene waiting for the tow truck, I used a tube of Renew 28 on her, and we just kept using and using. And by the time we got home several hours later, she didn't have any discomfort or bruising showing up. But I thought we should check with the hospital anyway, so I took her to the doctor a hospital about 6 hours after the accident, and the doctor confirmed there was nothing broken. She didn't have concussion. But while we were there, she started coughing from the air conditioning, and she felt pain across her chest. And the doctor said to her, "You're likely to get bruising then, and more pain from the seatbelt," because that particular pain was as a result of the seatbelt. And she said that my daughter would probably have bruising there for a good 2 weeks. But we kept applying the gel. We used a whole tube that night, and the next morning she woke up with no headache, no pain, no aches, no bruising, and was able to celebrate her 18th birthday party that night. So I've been able to use it for quite a few things, and that's the reason now why I'm sharing these miraculous molecules. So tonight we have special guests, Margot and John Rylah, and they're going to share their redox experiences. They have quite a few as well. But before we get started, I invite you to think about a few questions to get in touch with what you're looking for in your life. So maybe you have a health challenge or know of someone with a health challenge that needs help. Or would you like to reduce the visible signs of aging like I did? Or do you need more energy to do the things that you love? Maybe you're an athlete or a sports person when you're looking for improved performance. Or perhaps you're looking for more time and or money freedom and a better lifestyle. Maybe like me, you're wanting to make a living by making a difference. To really live well, and we all need two basic things. You need a body that can do whatever you ask it to do, and you need enough money to ask it to do some great things. To have that body, you must be exercising, you might be watching your diet or taking nutritional supplements, you might be doing everything you can think of, or you might be doing nothing at all. Frustratingly, no matter what you do, as you age, your cells respond less effectively to all of these strategies. Your cells naturally begin to break down, producing energy less efficiently and repairing themselves more slowly. If your cells could just be a little bit more efficient, your exercise, your nutrition, your supplementation, and everything else you do could be more effective. You could be healthier, longer, with less effort. Now, several years ago, scientists made a groundbreaking discovery. They identified molecules natively produced inside our body that help your cells to repair and regenerate. And once they discovered this, years of research and development went into figuring out how to produce these molecules outside of the body so that they could be used as a nutritional supplement. The result is a molecular technology that helps your cells to work better. And when your cells work better, everything works better. Your exercise and diet efforts become more productive, your nutritional supplementation works better, you feel better, you look better, you sleep better, and you have more energy. So now I'd like to introduce our special guests to you, Margot and John Rylah. Excuse me while I just bring up a different screen. So Margot is almost 72 years old and works part-time as a registered nurse at a local hospital. So she's still very active. John is almost 80 and keeps the household running. He's the kept man at home. They've been married for 48 years, have 2 children and are grandparents to 6 children. So they're at the fun stage of life where they have more time to do the things that they enjoy. And can you hear me, Margot?
Yes, Liz, yes.
Fantastic. Hello, Margot and John, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to talk to Margot first. Margot, I know before you started using these redox products, you had an issue with your foot. Would you like to describe to us what it was about?
Yes, my foot didn't prevent me from going to work, but I couldn't work, I couldn't weight bear on that foot without it being strapped. And in fact, it had been very painful. I've had trouble with my feet for many years and was taking a natural anti-inflammatory type nutritional support, which was helping, but our doctor had me see a podiatrist and he wasn't at all happy, had x-rays taken, and when I took the x-rays to work at the hospital, I knew the fellow in charge. I asked him if he could help me with them. He put them up in the box and he said, well, all I'm going to say is I'm glad they're not my feet. Well, the right foot was so sore, so tender, I couldn't lie face down on my bed to sleep, which is my favourite sleeping position, because the upper part of my foot was just too tender to even rest it on the bed. So I'd hang it out the side of the bed. And for 18 months I was having to wear it strapped, unable to weight bear without the strapping. So that was the story before we met Asia.
And what happened? You were then introduced to the molecules. How did that come about?
That came about because our fabulous young doctor just said to me one day when I happened to go and see her the week before, I know you're not working on Saturday, Margot. You need to be here at my surgery. We're having some people are coming round. A young lady is coming to visit us to tell us about some new science, and you need to be here. That was all she said, so I decided I'd better turn up. And when I did, there was a room full of people, and this young lady called Nicole Dennis had come down. We're on the Gold Coast, and Nicole had come down from Bribie Island to present this technology, about which we'd not heard at all, of course, until that moment. Just after Nicole started the meeting, she said that the doctor was going to come round and give everybody a blob of this gel, and we were to put it on something that was sore. Whatever hurt, put the gel on. So, of course, I just whacked it straight onto my foot, and then that wasn't strapped at the time, because at weekends I didn't wear it strapped. I was so fascinated with the whole presentation, and having been nursing now for over 55 years on and off, I could see that there was something very special about what Nicole had to say. So afterwards I had to wait a little while, but I knew I needed to go and have a good chat with her and find out a bit more about what I could do. And so it was about an hour after I'd put that gel on my foot. So I was standing talking to Cole, and she just said, where did you put the gel? And I remember looking down at my foot and said, oh, my foot, because I was weight bearing without any discomfort on that foot. After one application of the gel, to me that was nothing short of miraculous. And I haven't that foot hasn't been strapped since. The interesting thing was that we weren't in a position to start purchasing the product for 6 weeks later. So the middle of July, I went to Brisbane for the launch of the Renew Advanced range, which happened to be the Renew 28 plus the skincare product. So we'd saved up for that, and that was when we started to apply Renew Gel. I've not only not strapped the foot, but I've stopped taking those and natural anti-inflammatories, which I had been taking, I think, for a good 20 years.
So this was about 18 months ago when you were introduced to the product, and
yes.
So then you haven't needed to have strapping. What else did you notice? So you started off using the skincare, is that right?
That's right, very much so.
And the serum, yep.
About 6 weeks after I started to use it, our daughter visited. She's currently living in Perth, and I picked her up from the train. She hopped in the car and she said, Mum, what have you been doing to your skin? She could see straight away that it was quite different from when she'd last seen me.
Okay. And you were using it on your face and skin just purely for aging reasons?
I was using it because I'd actually seen very early in the piece a little video by Justin Phillips called
Justin's Renewed Ritual.
It's Justin's Renewed Ritual, of course it is, and I send it to everybody that we're in touch with, because it explains that the gel could be used face, eyes, neck, thyroid, carotids, back of the neck, underarms. So I haven't used deodorant since then, or either. The other extraordinary thing is, as well as having this amazing improvement with my foot, I didn't notice for quite a few months, but I realised one day that I could read my shampoo bottle in the shower. And, of course, you don't wear glasses in the shower, at least I don't. So I'd had a totally unexpected improvement in my sight.
How long did that take, do you think?
Well, I think that was about November. So that's July, August, September, 4 months.
And I think we should explain for those people who don't know, one of the reasons why it worked effectively for you as a deodorant is because the redox gel, by their nature, are antimicrobial. And of course, we need to use deodorants because we have bacteria there that cause the smell. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, is that under our arms is a nest of lymphatic vessels, as around our neck as well. So the molecules are being transported not only by our bloodstream but by our lymphatic system.
Which is our immune support.
Exactly.
Right, okay. So what else did you notice? I think after that you got John to start using it, is that right?
Well, I had John start that from the moment that we got it because he had go, John, your turn.
Hi, John.
I'd had a hip replacement the previous August and was due to have another one that September. The August one I had quite a lot of pain for quite a long time after the surgery. I was home and Margot was still calling a surgeon getting opioids for me to
ease the discomfort.
To ease the pain. Now so when we got the gel, she said, rub it on both hips and make sure you do a good job. And she also told me about Justin's facial thing, so I've been doing that as well as my hips. And when the surgery happened in September, I found that I had no pain. I had total mobility. I couldn't even get in and out of bed the first time. Second time, I was able to get in and out of bed myself and was walking very soon after and had no pain when we came home from hospital, no pain whatsoever. It was just incredibly different.
So even though it was the same operation,
exactly,
but
yes, yep.
You had a better recovery and less pain
Yep.
from no, that's fantastic. And the previous hip operation that you'd had, you found relief from using the gel on that as well.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But by this time it was some months later before I started using it.
Oh, okay. All right. Then what happened for you?
Then what happened? Well, the main thing was I also started using the See a Drink about in the last 12 months. And as anybody would realise, when you get to up near 80, it's starting to fall apart. And I found that with the ASEA, I'm gaining more energy and I'm still very active. We have a house that's a 2-story with a split level top floor, so a lot of stairs, and we've got a sloping block. I still cut the lawn and use whippersnipper in the yard, still do gardening, and I do all the other stuff that goes on around keeping a household going. And I've just got more and more energy, and that's been great. But the other thing, because of this using the Renew on my face, when I went, well, let me wind back. In Queensland, after 75, you have to get a medical every year for your driver's licence, which involves an eye test and the doctor checking various things. And this last September, the eye specialist said, for the second year in a row, you do not need new glasses. Now, that was good, and they're only reading glasses. My sight is good for driving, and he said, actually, your eyesight is about average for 65-year-olds. At that stage, I was 78, so I thought, or 79. I thought that was a nice compliment.
That's pretty good. So you're able to get your license again.
Yeah.
Now you also use it for knee and shoulder discomfort.
Yes, I had a shoulder that sounded a bit like yours. When Margot was working for a surgeon some years ago, he was putting injections in my shoulder because it was so sore. And, excuse me, also, excuse me, also had limited movement. And so he was, what was he putting?
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
He was injecting
was injecting into the joint. And that, for about 3 months, that was good, and then get again. But since it got so bad that I couldn't sleep on that shoulder, and that's my sort of my preferred sleeping side. So I've been rubbing the Renew on it regularly, and got full movement and very little discomfort, and able to sleep on it.
And hang up the washing.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, right.
Of course.
You can't be a kept man if you're not doing the housework.
Well, she's just put her foot in it because it means she doesn't hang out the washing or anything else around the house.
Okay, well, let's move on.
Yes.
So, Margot, you were also telling me that you used to have some lung issues on an annual basis. Can you tell us?
Yes. If ever I've got a sore throat, I developed a condition in my trachea, and I could tell very quickly that was going to end up in my chest. So it was a regular thing most winters. I don't usually have breathing problems, don't get wheezy unless I get an infection. And straight away I know antibiotics. About 4 years ago, that developed into pneumonia. 12 months ago, John happened to be taking the ASEA liquid. So I started to get these symptoms. I increased the amount of Renew I was rubbing on my neck and chest. And I started to get a little bit like it would get wheezy. So I borrowed a nebulizer from a friend, and with nebulizing and the ASEA liquid, I did not develop at all. Now, I haven't had to borrow the nebulizer this year, but I've got a bit sniffly at one stage and maybe just a hint of a bit of tightness. And I heard somebody say that all we have to do is squirt a bit of ASEA liquid from a little squirt bottle, which I do, and just take a breath, inhale, and blow the mist, and those droplets go into our lung tissue just as though the nebulizer would. And I have staved off yet another likelihood. I can't say that it was going to happen, but in the past it certainly developed. Another thing that was quite dramatic for me is that one day I was coming up steps and tripped on a fan cord and fell very heavily into a doorway, bang onto my forehead. I saw stars straight away and had a feeling that I was about to lose consciousness. So I rolled straight away onto the floor, and John came running because he'd heard the crash. I don't know whether it was me or the fan that he heard. And he just grabbed the tube of Renew, and it wasn't, a lot of times we suggest to people that when there's something that hurts, we could put the gel on 3 times in 5 minutes. Well, there was nothing about 3 times in 5 minutes. It was just whacking it on. Then I realised I'd also banged my knee at the same time. So gel on both spots, but particularly on my forehead. I had no discomfort whatever, no marks on my forehead. I was able to get up. I didn't feel at all tired. The next day, I didn't have any kind of headache, and there was no symptoms of what would have been concussion, I believe. So we just won't be without these products. We'll never be without Renew.
Yeah.
And ASEA. I'm actually looking forward to starting to increase ASEA myself, because I've got a few kilos to lose. And ASEA actually burns our fat. We are able to utilise the fat as it's metabolised, and the ASEA helps us do that. So I'm looking forward to shedding some kilos.
And now also you've both have had blood work done, and you've had amazing results with that as well.
Well, a few months ago, I ran out of my thyroid tablets, which I've been taking for, well, at least 15 years, I would say. And because most Australians are deficient in thyroid because we don't have enough iodine in our soil. So I'd run out of them and rang my doctor, and she was away. And it was over Christmas as well. So I had to wait a good 2 weeks before I saw her. And she and I agreed that blood tests would be in order. But she was concerned that I might have a bit of a health crisis, but being without the thyroid tablets for a couple of weeks. Anyway, it was about 3 weeks by the time we got the blood test results. And I remember the day, and John had some as well, because he was about due. And we walked into her surgery, and she said, "Have you guys changed your diet?" And we said, "No." And she said, "Well, I've never seen John's bloods. Everything in normal ranges." And she'd been really struggling to get some of his blood elements into place, including a particular thing which I won't go into called homocysteine, and everything was within normal limits. Now, I didn't know that my cardiac markers were a bit topsy-turvy. They hadn't been significant enough for them to ever have come to our attention before. And Jane said, "Even your markers have flipped." It was about 15 months since I'd had a previous blood test. And in all that time, all that we'd done differently was apply redox molecules.
Okay. And for John, you also had good results with your blood as well.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing. And of course, other bits and pieces with aging, like your sunspots. Margot.
I've had hands that a doctor told me many years ago that my hands would be older, 20 years older than the rest of me. Well, these are not 90-year-old hands anymore.
That's fantastic. Okay, so when was the last time that you both felt this good? Do you remember?
Oh. Well, it's years. I don't feel anywhere near 70.
What year were you in New York and your feet were giving you absolute courage?
Well, you see, yeah. When our eldest grandchild's about to turn 10, we were there for her second birthday
in Seattle. And I had an awful lot of discomfort from my feet then. I'd run out of those anti-inflammatories, and I knew that I needed them back on in a hurry. So I couldn't do without those anti-inflammatories then. So, there's various things now that we aren't bothered by that we've been bothered by for 20 years. That's extraordinary.
It is, isn't it? So John
We're
has
getting
got
younger.
the eyesight of a 65-year-old. Sorry? I missed that, John.
I missed that.
Oh, okay. I said, so John, you've got the eyesight of a 65-year-old. You're going up and down stairs.
Going back to 55.
He just said we're getting younger.
Oh yes, yeah. I actually believe I'm aging backwards as well.
Yeah.
But the important thing for both of you is quality of life, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. That's
absolutely. Energy. Able to do, as you said in the beginning, Liz, we need bodies that we can do the things that we want to do.
Yes.
And, John can mow the lawn.
And the washing. Yes, great. So Thank you very much, Margot and John, for sharing. It's lovely to have you on tonight. And, well, all the best to both of you, and may you keep ageing younger.
Now, Liz, I know that you're winding up there, but I do want to say one thing. John had quadruple bypass about 10 years ago, and one of the things that his cardiologist's been very particular about is keeping his blood pressure down. Well, at one stage he was starting to get, in the last 12 months, he was starting to get a bit lightheaded. And when we went to see the doctor, she said, your blood pressure's too low, John. We'll have to cut back on your blood pressure medication. So that is something that often happens too. We have to watch the other medications we're taking because they may need to be adjusted to the fact that our bodies are doing more of what they should have been doing anyway.
That's exactly right, and that's great that you've added that, so that people who are using this for whatever reason, that they need to be aware of how it can affect positively other parts of their bodies, which may in the beginning look like it's a negative, but actually it's our cells communicating better and working more efficiently and functioning as they should. So thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your stories.
Yeah.
So thanks again, John and Margot.
Thank you, Liz.
I'd just like to remind everybody that ASEA products are not intended to diagnose, treat or cure any condition. They empower your own cellular communication, efficiency and therefore function. So if you're interested to find out more about these products, please go back to the person who invited you to watch this presentation and they will let you know how you can get started and have your very own redox experience. So next week there will be another talk at the same time, same channel. We're not too sure who it's going to be yet, but on Wednesday nights we have another presentation with Australian Diamond leaders. So that's every Wednesday night, and they talk about the company, products and science and business opportunity. And to log into that, you can go to www.advancinglifeintro.com, and that's on Wednesday nights. And I believe tomorrow night we have our very own Sally Misso Diamond, who is an amazing speaker. She's a fantastic therapist, has lots of experience to share, and you know, I think you'll really enjoy what she has to say as well. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. I'm just going to stop the recording now. So let me just ask to see if there's any questions here. So yes, this will be recorded. This is recorded and the recording will be posted in our Facebook groups tomorrow. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm just going to stop recording and you can stay online if you have any questions.